What's up, Dp-Capital-G here, looking at a super interesting deck that actually topped a regional over the weekend. This was in Costa Rica, not in the United States, and it is surprisingly Cubics. And I know a lot of you guys thought that it was just a meme. You thought that the deck didn't have any legitimate plays, but after this shit, you will be surprised. I looked at this deck and I was like, whoa. Clearly, this guy had one objective, and that was to OTK the hell out of his opponent. If you've ever actually played Cubics, right? So if I was going to rate the deck on, not like overall consistency and all that, if I was just going to rate it on offense and defense, I would give Cubics on a 10 scale, easily a 10 when it comes to offense. Defensively, Cubics can kind of suck. I mean, they have Vjam, which is, it's okay because it can't be destroyed by battle, and you have unification of the Cubic Lords, which can summon a monster straight from your deck. But like outside of that, Cubics really don't have any defensive options, and it's fine. Konami didn't design them to be a defensive deck. They designed them to be super aggressive, which is, why people play it the way that they do. Most fusion decks are pretty much that way. So he obviously took that aspect of the deck and said, you know what, if I don't win by turn 3, I'm not gonna win. Cubics are not a grind deck. They're basically a RKO your opponent out of nowhere type deck, and you can see with his main deck and with his side deck, his objective was to end the game immediately, not to stall the game out, not to be bogged down by things like Solemn Strike and all of these annoying like True Draco traps and all this other junk. He ran multiple Denko Sekkas in the main deck. Homeboy had 3 copies of Twin Twister in the main, and then if you look at his side deck, you see 3 copies of Royal Decree and My Body as a Shield. I thought this card died with Zodiacs, but no, apparently it did not. He's basically saying, look, anybody trying to play Mirror Force, anybody trying to play Dark Hole or anything like that, nah, we are not having that, fam. I will gladly give up 1,500 light points if it means I am going to simply kill your ass. Actually, a nice little touch that I like that he added was the BLS. So if you don't know, Cubics do have light and they have dark monsters, so you already have enough stuff to summon the BLS. The Denkos give him light, the Summoner Monk is also dark, and it's just another powerhouse card because, like, a lot of times the Cubic Crimson Lord, this card it's not quite an OTK by itself, but it's like halfway to an OTK. The card has the multiple attack clause just like BLS. It can do massive amounts of battle damage. If you combine it with Cubic Wave, then basically you're going to OTK your opponent, and it does 3,000 damage during the end phase to both players, but usually the 3,000 damage is really not relevant to you. It's usually relevant to your opponent because it means you only have to do 5,000. You only really have to do 5,000 like battle damage. And with the Cubic Karma, you can actually power it up 2,400 more attack if you happen to have all your V-Gems in your graveyard, or excuse me, in your deck. So it's a really easy way to get this guy to like 5,000 attack, and then he burns your opponent for like 3,000 more, and it's pretty much just GG at that point. And BLS is just another powerhouse card that can do a mess of damage to make him OTK even easier. If you're wondering why he has 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods, it's basically so that you can send Karma straight to the graveyard. Karma is a foolish, or not a foolish, it's a reinforcement of the army or Stratos for the entire Cubic deck. Searches all your monsters, and it can be used the same turn that it hits the graveyard. What I really like about this build is anyone who has played Cubics knows that, to be honest, there's only like 3 good Cubic monsters. Like Crimson Lord is good, Duza is good, and Vjam is good, but all the rest of these Cubic cards kind of suck. The only reason that you run them is because you have to kind of have a high Cubic count if you want to summon your Crimson Lord. And this is one of the cards that makes OTKing pretty easy. So he didn't like run a ton of like the shitty Cubics. They're basically in there for like, just to basically summon the Dark Lord. And if they're dead in your hand, then you just discard them to Twin Twister or something like that. Don't keep them in your hand. Another cool card was Recurring Nightmare. Recurring Nightmare does work with a lot of Cubic monsters. A lot of them have 0 defense. Crimson Lord has 0 defense. Vjam has 0 defense. So another really cool card that can actually get you some resources back. Maybe you pitch those for Twin Twister. Maybe you use those resources to summon Crimson Lord. And then another thing that I saw, and I was like, whoa, this guy is next level. He's main decking Scapegoat, right? Now, the obvious is, obviously, you know, Scapegoat is a powerhouse card in the Vrains era because it can just turn itself into Link monsters. You can turn a Scapegoat into, hypothetically, a Firewall Dragon as long as you've got a couple of Link monsters in between. However, it can be used for other reasons. Like, Cubics sometimes struggle with the early game, like if you brick in Cubics, or if the only thing you have is like a Vijam just face down and it can't be destroyed by battle, and that's like your only defense, you might die if your opponent targets it and just blows it up and you don't have unification of the Cubic Lords. But what Scapegoat does is, Scapegoat obviously buys you more time. It gives you 4 monsters that can block attacks, and then at the same time, if your opponent doesn't kill those said 4 monsters, then that card converts itself potentially into offense as well. So Scapegoat actually makes a whole lot of sense in Cubics because it's a defensive card that has the potential of becoming an offensive card. I feel like Cubics are they're in a strange place where they're a deck that don't have that much defense, and you kind of have to find ways of giving the deck defense. Otherwise, you're probably going to lose. But if you can just do what Jose did and you can just OTK your opponent, then I guess the defense is kind of inconsequential. The extra deck, to be honest, you see a whole bunch of cards that I am pretty sure he didn't summon. Yeah, you can summon Rank Forge relatively easy because you are running Summoner Monk. The links are in here mainly for Scapegoats. But the other things like, you know, the Gustav Max, like this is probably one of those cards that you might summon one time during an entire regionals. The fusion monster that no one ever uses, like you're never ever gonna summon this. I think out of probably 50 cubic matches, I think I have like one replay where somebody actually summons this. So, you know, never sleep on a deck, guys. When you think that a deck is just memes, is exactly when that deck can just shock you, and it can surprise you with its playmaking ability. Don't ever forget, Cubics offensively, I did not lie in that video where I said that Cubics are one of the most dangerous decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! The deck really is. Like, Cubics may not have that much consistency, and defensively, the deck does kind of suck, but offensively, Cubics can OTK like almost any deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, they can OTK through a Masterpiece, no problem. They can OTK Pendulum Magicians, no problem. If Pendulum Magicians only have that one trap, and like, that's all you have to defend yourself, like, yeah, Cubic player with 6 cards can like easily OTK you. So what do you guys think? Shout outs to Jose getting it done with the Cubic deck. Actually, it's just so strange. You would never think that like Cubics in Link format would have more tops than like a deck like Magic Specters or all these other decks that people think are like good low tier decks. Like, no, actually Cubics are better than those. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already and turn on those notifications for daily videos. Oh, I will have this in the description for anybody who wants to mess around. Obviously, I have the deck built on Dueling Book, so I'll probably play it a couple of times during my live stream tomorrow, which well, I don't know when the hell you guys are going to see this, but my live stream Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, I'll have this in the description for anybody who wants to mess around with the deck.